to What Juices You, where we explore what energizes leaders, how that energy fuels performance, connection, and growth. I'm Brady Wilson from Juice Inc. And in each episode, I sit down with leaders and we talk about what fuels them, what sustains them, the lessons they've learned that can be helpful for all of us. Today, I am excited to have Norm Wolfe on the show. Norm is the founder and CEO of Quantum Leaders Inc. and the author of The Living Organization, a groundbreaking book redefining how companies drive execution and growth. Now, Norm has logged some impressive accomplishments. One example, he's turned around a $1.2 billion operation. He's got deep bench strength. Norm brings a rare blend of practical business insight, deep system thinking. His work challenges traditional mechanical views of business, offering a living systems perspective that I'm super interested to get into, where organizations evolve and thrive much like living beings through purpose, maturity, and alignment. Norm, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brady. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm so honored that you invited me to be a guest. Thank you.
No. So we're going to start with the question. I have been asking leaders for over 20 years,
Yes.
What juices you, Norm? But I want to put a finer point on it. What juices you when it comes to helping leaders really understand and digest this big thing that you're bringing to the world, that organizations are living beings? Because I can tell you that I've got a lot of leaders that I deal with where the primary metaphor is business or organization as a machine or organization as a computer. You're saying organizations are living beings. I couldn't agree with you more, but I am so fascinated to hear you talk about what is it that sustains your energy, because that's probably that's a big task to get people thinking a different way about this. So let's get into that.
Well, I guess it started really early in my career when I came to work full of juice, real excited. I mean, I love what I did. I always have loved what I did. But everybody around me felt like they were just marking time, so to speak, right? And I remember I was a young engineer at Pratt & Whitney Aircraft, and a couple of us were talking about how much we really loved what we did. And my supervisor came in and said, "Love what you do. Work's not fun. Work's meant to be work. If it was meant to fun, you'd pay us. This isn't Disneyland." I mean, it was just this whole gestalt of... Early on in my career, I was faced with what you might call personal cognitive dissonance. It's like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
As I continued my career, and for many years after that, I've always been interested in helping organizations achieve what they set out to achieve, right? Whether you call that strategy or goals, or whatever fancy terms we like to put on it. Simply put, we just really want, as an organization, to go from point A to point B, whatever that looks like, right? Better market share, more innovation, higher profits, it doesn't matter. And I've always been fascinated with how do we do that? How do we do that effectively? And I developed a very successful career. But in 2002, I was talking to one of my clients, asked them, I was reorienting. It was like, okay, time to rethink my consulting career and what am I all about and what kind of focus should I have? So I asked the client, why do you keep hiring me? And without even blinking, he said, "Norman, that's easy. You help me execute faster." That makes sense. That is what I was always interested in. And what that led me to discover was 70% of companies fail to execute.
Yeah.
And 70% of people who work in companies are disengaged. And those statistics have been consistent ever since they've been measured, which is now about 3-4 decades long.
Sure.
And we never move the needle. Now, here's the interesting question I want to pose. We have more knowledge about how to lead effectively, how to create strategies, how to follow up and execute strategies. We have more knowledge about running businesses today. I mean, look at my bookshelf behind me, right? I mean, there's a wealth of knowledge.
Sure.
why isn't any of that moving the needle? That was the question
Yeah.
that I really had to
Yeah.
ask myself.
Yes.
And that's when I discovered we're stuck in what I now call a paradigm trap. We're literally stuck in the framework of belief we have about what an organization is. But what led me to write the book was I was at a conference and a friend was asking me what I did, and I told them I'm a consultant, and she asked me, what makes you different than any other consultant? And the words I said was, I don't know. I think it's because I think of an organization different. I see them as something alive, as a having a soul, even having a purpose and a passion for what they do. And her comment was, "You should write a book." You know, the worst, the worst thing she ever did to me, and the best thing that she ever said to me,
Right. Oh my
because
goodness.
that seed was planted. And what I now realize, and what really keeps me going day after day after day, is we need to transform the paradigm. Business leaders need to transform the paradigm, the way they view their role and the way they view what an organization is for their personal well being. They can't manage in today's world anymore. It's driving them nuts. Recent surveys say over 60% of leaders feel burnt out, feel stressed. They go home emotionally exhausted.
Yep.
It's just too much for one person to carry in this complex world. Um, Employees feel miserable. Right? More and more employees are saying, "Give me something meaningful in my job. Make me feel important. Make me feel like I'm contributing something." So leaders are unhappy. Employees are unhappy. We're not executing well. I'm committed to transforming the paradigm because I believe if we shift the paradigm, all of that gets resolved.
Right. One of the things that I'm interested in is when we think about the difference between engagement and energy, and I know you've done some really deep thinking about energy, we see that those are two different things. And engagement tends to be all about discretionary effort and commitment and dedication and tenacity and loyalty. And I'm going to say good things about the organization, but energy is a lot more about passion, enthusiasm, inspiration, getting into a state of flow, resilience, agility, creativity, those things. And they're different. Now they serve each other, but I'm guessing that the metaphor of an organization as a machine means that an employee is kind of like a cog or a part that can easily
That's
be
exactly right.
replaced. And
That's
if
right.
I feel that as an employee, that, yeah, you're looking at me as like, don't make too much noise because if you start
Absolutely.
squeaking, I'm going to replace you, then I don't feel valued and respected. I don't really feel like I matter.
That's
And
right.
so that's going to affect my energy like instantly. And
Absolutely.
ultimately, I think that's going to affect my engagement. Could you talk a little bit more about that metaphor of organization as a machine and what are the implications, not just to the employee, but to managers and leaders, et cetera?
So the when we view an organization as a machine, what we're really looking to optimize is the activity of the machine.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way we view what a machine does. It takes inputs, runs through a series of gates and processes and decision trees, and produces an output. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
whether it's a whether it's a coffee maker, an automobile, or an organization, it
Sure.
inputs to outputs. Make it done efficiently as possible. When I looked at it's interesting. You're fascinated with energy. When I looked at looking at how do I think about what human beings do versus what a machine does, I too looked at energy. I mean, I said the whole purpose of my work is to help organizations become more effective at creating the outcomes they want.
Yeah.
Well, I started with the basic principle everything is energy, and energy can't be created or destroyed.
Newton.
And with that, the next question was okay, so what energy are we transforming? If
Right.
outputs is a transformation of one thing to another, what are we transforming? I came up with three major fields as when people create something. One is their activity, that
Yeah.
we still do stuff. The second, and what you were applying to, was the field of relationship. How am I
Yeah.
treated? How do I feel about myself? How do I feel about my contribution? How do people around me make me feel? How do I make them feel? Like, this is the domain of relationship energy. But there's a third field that makes human beings very different than all other living systems, and certainly different than a machine. I call it the context field. Human beings are meaning-making, storytelling entities. And
Yeah,
as such, the context, which is really defined as the meaning I make from the situation around me,
sure.
is very important to how I respond to in relationships and how I choose to act in response to events in life to make something happen. So we have three fields of energy in the living organization framework. There's the activity, relationship, and context energy. And that's just a way of putting labels, if you will, on the what you were describing earlier as the domains of energy that humans have versus a machine. In a machine, we only care about activity.
Yeah. Well, and I love the context piece, and I want to make sure that I understand it, but I see situations where the narrative that's running in people's heads, whether that's leadership or employees, but let's say employees, that belief system, I would imagine, is part of the context, and it is immediately going to affect the relationships, whether I trust leaders or not, and it's immediately going to affect my level of activity and the activity of. So I see that the natural byproduct of a healthy context where there's meaning making and sense making that's happening by leaders is going to spill over into a culture of healthy relationships and execution, just like you're saying, that kind of
Absolutely.
activity. Have I got that right? Or
You have
find,
absolutely right. Context it goes by many names. Context could be viewed as a paradigm, a
yeah,
worldview, a framework. Um, I look at it as a psychic DNA. Now, we know that genetic DNA causes our bodies to respond to events in life a certain way. The cells in our bodies and things happen, and it knows what to do. And even our ability to breathe on a regular basis, right? That's all genetically encoded in being a human being, right? Well, if you think about how our belief systems get created,
yeah,
um, there's a similarity, and the similarity is this: an event happens, we don't know what that means. Our meaning
sure,
making system makes meaning out of it.
yep,
We do that by creating a story. This happened, this means XYZ about this event.
yep,
If I want to be safe and successful, I should behave this way. And we kind of experiment for a while. And then eventually, this event means this, therefore I behave this way. And we create these, what I call story behavior pairs, like pairs of DNAs. So we create this kind of
oh, interesting, interesting,
psychic DNA that creates the responses we have to life's events. And they're almost, well, for the most part, they're autonomous, automatic. We just do it. We don't think. Customer calls, I pick up the phone. If my psychic DNA, if the narrative I have around this thing is my job as a order processing person is to be efficient, effective, a customer calling creates an interruption to my efficient processing. That's a narrative, right? That's a
yeah,
story. That's the way we do things around here. If my narrative is as a order processing person, my role is to be as supportive of customer needs as possible. When a customer calls, I'm going to have a very different response. I don't think about the response. I've just adopted, I've created a context of what my role is, and that's how I behave. That's the way we work
oh
as human
yeah,
beings.
oh yeah. And
And
I think one of the things that I've seen you talk about or write about, even in that, is the difference between I have to and I get to.
oh, yes.
And
You want to
so
talk about
that,
energy?
right, the call
That's
taker
that's
who is actually encoded with, I get to help our clients solve issues that when I'm done with them, they're getting off the phone or off the Zoom call going, That was amazing. Thank you so much. That meant the world to me. It's like I get to do that versus I have to engage in this disruptive interruption in my productivity of my day and this complaining customer. It brings a completely different energy, no matter what it
Absolutely.
is, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The narratives we tell ourselves, the way we approach life, is a big impact on our energy. We do a little definition of want to versus get to, is an exercise we teach in all of our trainings, because it's so clear how all it takes is a shift in a word to change my energy, to
Yeah.
change my orientation, to change my satisfaction. Now, if you think about going back to the machine paradigm, how do we set things up for people? Well, we tell them what their role is.
Yeah.
We hire them against a certain set of specifications, like we were buying a
Mhm.
product, right? We put them in
Mhm.
a job and we tell them what they have to do to be successful.
Right.
Let's change that a little bit. I look for somebody who has interest and skills to make a contribution. I say,
Yeah.
this is what we're trying to achieve. And I invite them into saying, how would you like to contribute to the success of this organization? In the first, it's a have to. In the second, it's a choice, a get to. One of our core principles is engagement, which is the energy level, is directly related to my sense of empowerment. And my sense of empowerment is a function of whether I have choice about it or not.
Mm.
And we don't give people choice in business. We tell them what to do, what they're going to be measured against. We basically set it up as it's an evaluative culture. In the living organization framework, we believe in what we call a developmental culture. We want to help you be successful, not only here, but in your life. Because the
Right.
more and that's how we get more energy into the system. And the more energy we get into the system, the better the organization is going to do.
It feels to me like you're tapping into the intrinsic
Yes.
autonomy
Yes.
and really figuring out how do we unlock that and allow it to release itself in the energy that's going to turn into very aligned, I'm assuming, activities that create
Yes.
execution, not
Yes.
just that matter for that employee, but or even the team and the manager, but are aligned for all the stakeholders that matter. It's got to be shared value throughout the system, right?
Yeah.
So there's sometimes it feels like there can be a conflict or tension between people being truly autonomous and tapping into that intrinsic and innate autonomy. And will it actually line up with the global and more unified needs of the organization? Can you talk to us a little bit about how you
Uh,
reconcile those two?
yeah, it has to do with the mistake we make about how we even describe autonomous. That's why I don't use autonomy. I use choice.
Okay.
You know, when I was raising my daughter, it's probably where I learned this valuable lesson. I could tell her what to do and make sure she was safe, and we got the results we wanted. Right? And it could be punishment or reward or however I did that. But I recognized early in her upbringing, and it was very challenging for me to move into this position as a parent. If, if I told her what to do, she would never learn to do it on her own. So I always wanted to empower her. Now remember, I said empowerment means choice,
Right.
but giving her choice doesn't mean she gets to choose anything she wants. She can choose things that are possible within the given resources I have, within the given belief systems I have for our family, right? So she doesn't have infinite choice. And the same thing in business. And one of the things I tell leaders as I teach them about choice is you want to give people choices, but you don't delegate the boundary conditions. You have to still establish whether you're allowed to make choices within what boundaries, right? I know you'd love to make a choice to buy, $10,000 worth of more computer equipment, but we don't have those resources. That's not a choice that is available to you. If you want to work here, yeah, I mean, you could do someplace else, and that's a choice you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
make, right? So this notion of choice is not giving people unlimited autonomy to do whatever they want. It's inviting them to play the game the company wants to play. It's inviting them to participate and to contribute and to choose how they want to contribute. And if they can't find a way to contribute, why would I want them on the team?
Yeah.
Right.
It's
So
it seems like it's a beautiful integration of choice and accountability
yes, yes,
that are checks and balances to each other that you're talking about.
absolutely, absolutely.
Hmm.
And I'll tell you something else that's interesting that I've discovered as I've been working with clients. It's very hard for people. People say they want that. Employees say they want that.
Hmm.
Once they realize what that means,
Terrifying.
it's terrifying because they have
Hmm.
nobody. It's like a child who wants to say, Daddy, keep saving me. And Daddy says, No, no, no. You get to make the choice. You get to live with the consequences. Okay. But can I had again, my daughter is going back to parenting. I remember sitting in the car with her and she said, I don't believe in what's going on. I'm going to protest. I said, you certainly can do that. I would support you. You know, you might get arrested. Well, no, I won't. Well, you might. Are you willing to do that? See, my goal is to give her the awareness to expand her context
Yeah.
about what the consequences of her choices might be. Well, it's the same thing in leadership. We want to give people the freedom to make the choices necessary. We want to have them have the boundaries wide enough so they can explore and learn and grow, because that's how we do that. But we also want to set the boundaries where they're not going to, destroy the company or drive it over the cliff or anything like that. So,
Hmm.
but people are afraid. People have not been trained, and this is one of the biggest challenges leaders are going to have, is they cannot assume that just giving people the choice or setting up this new framework, people will step into it, because it means they have to be accountable, responsible, and take ownership for their behaviors.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people
Yeah.
want to do that.
No,
Right?
it
It's
can
easier
be.
to blame the boss for why things aren't working than for me to say, "Hey, I blew it." Right?
That's it.
Um, and it's one of the reasons in the living organization we talk about the role of maturity in the process. We have to recognize that as leaders, I'm not just looking to develop their capability, I'm looking to develop their maturity.
Yes.
And if I don't do that, then it falls apart. Um,
Hmm.
so,
I'm assuming that when the living organization is truly flourishing,
mhm,
that there would be certain people who would self-select out. It's like,
yes,
no, I just want to be told what to do because it's super
yes,
safe for me. And if it doesn't work out, I just point the finger at the manager. And now you have initiated, Norm, you and your consultants, a new culture where I see very clearly that I do have choice, but along with that comes accountability. And you know what? I would rather be somewhere else. Do you see people actually self-selecting out of situations like that? Or is it
our, our approach to implementing the living organization framework is to implement things in correlation with levels of maturity.
Mhm.
Not everything in the organization needs to be a self-managing, self-organizing entity,
Right.
right? There are places in almost every organization for activity that is more constrained, more defined,
Mm.
where the level of maturity you and I were just talking about isn't required. So we don't set out to create high, let's just put a number to it, a level 5 maturity across the board, right? There are
Right.
places where very level 1 maturity, where you come in, you do the job, you go home, and you're told it's very well defined, it's very structured, that's very appropriate. It's what's needed in the organization. So there's a place for people for that.
Sure.
What we don't want is to constrain the organization when higher levels of maturity are beneficial. We don't want to have
Mhm.
an organization that's operating from a do what I tell you kind of mode, right?
Yeah.
we want to free up that energy so that there is greater creativity, innovation, responsiveness, resilience, all the things we talk about.
Right.
So it's not a one size fits all. That's one of the beautiful things about our framework is we're very conscious of understanding where the level of maturity is for any given organization, for any given department within the organization, and asking the question, what's the right fit? Now, once you ask that question, then you do face the issue of people selecting out. And I'll give you an example. We have a client who's had branch offices, has branch offices, and the leadership of the branch offices were mostly oriented around operation efficiency. To meet the strategic needs going forward, we want them to take on a new role, which is more of a business manager role.
Okay.
So, right? So they have to think about who are we serving? What are their needs? How do I attract them? How do I relate to them? How do I build positive relationships? How do I, all the things a business manager would do, not just the customer brings stuff in, I process it and send it out, right?
Sure.
Very different roles. As I sat down with the CEO and we were talking about how do we train the leaders to this new role and some of it's new trainings and business management principles and stuff like that. And some of it is being able to be the kind of leader we were talking about for their people.
Right.
And I said, some of the skills that they need, they may not want to take on.
Right.
Some of them have been around a long time. And I said, Mr. CEO, are you willing to have to let people choose to select out?
Yeah.
And very people who have been with you for a very long time, who have brought you to where you are as an organization, has contributed, and they've been wonderful employees, but they're not going to fit, and they're going to choose not to want to fit. Are you going to let them hold the organization back, or are you going to allow them and facilitate them moving into some other role? And that's very hard for leaders to do. I mean, if you really think about what it means for a leader to turn to somebody who's been with them for 15, 20, 25, 30 years and say, you no longer fit where we're going and we don't have a place for you anymore. I mean, these are emotional bonds that leaders have with people. So we have to recognize that even leaders are human beings, and
Sure.
we don't let, I often say there's two parts to a decision. There's the decision itself and the implementation. And I say separate the implementation because the decision is what's best for what the organization needs.
Yep.
Cold, black and white, easy to do. It's when we think about how do we implement it that brings in all the human, emotional, feeling stuff. And we can take, if we separate the two, we can make the decision very clearly. We know where we're going. Then we can figure out the best way to go there to maintain the kind of humanness we want for the organization as a whole. And those are two separate questions to be answered. So
I'm glad you shared that because I think people could hear the terminology, the living organization, and jump to all kinds of wild assumptions around it's always going to be soft and fluffy, no hard conversations, no decisions. And you're not saying that at all. I want to talk
very
a little
much
bit.
different.
Yeah. Could we talk a little bit about the flows of energy? So you're saying there are 4 parts of the living organization framework. Number 1, organizations are living beings. Second one I've got here is organization as flows of energy. And what I think I read in your book was, Newton gave us energy cannot be destroyed or created. But it was Einstein who gave us there's a fixed. It's like it's not like we either have energy or don't have energy, right? It's like there's a different energy can be transformed from one type of energy to a different. Could you just speak to that a little bit because I think that could be really fascinating for our listeners.
It's I was just listening to this article, this author who wrote a brand new book. I think it's called Know Yourself. He started off the book with talking about energy, the cells, and how energy works, and the fact that we are literally, how did he say it? I think he said with 99% space and 1% matter.
That makes sense.
We're just all
Like the
energy.
universe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're just all we are literally just a bunch of. I mean, think about it. We're just vibrating atoms, right? We're just now. It's somehow those vibrating atoms make it look like we're substantive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when we bump into walls, it feels like we're substantive, but in reality, we're just energies floating around.
Mhm.
And think about how something gets done. Somebody has an idea. Well, that's a form of energy. I have a thought.
Yeah.
And I think some more, and I think some more, and eventually I start talking to people. So now I've got some other people thinking about it, right? And then we do things together. We have our activity, and we try things, and eventually something gets produced. But it started with an energy form called thought.
Yeah.
That it began to incorporate another energy form called relationships,
Right.
which morphed into energy form called activity that eventually created a widget, a product, whatever,
Sure.
a service even. So everything is energy, and all we're doing constantly transforming energy. When we eat food, this is one of the things the guy, the author of this book said. When we eat food, we think about we're taking in energy, transforming it into certain forms of different energy within us,
Yep.
and releasing that unused energy into different forms. And we're constantly doing that. We breathe, we're taking in energy from the universe, and we expel, we're putting energy back out. I mean, it's just it can get very crazy making when you try to analyze it to its infinite detail. And at least for me, it's like the mystery of the universe, seeing it through the lens of everything is energy, and the fact that I'm taking in billions of energy and releasing it and transforming it, and then I'm working with other people, and but it's all energy. That's all there is. It's just a dance of energy.
Right. We had a situation, Norm, 2020. So we do work in person with leadership teams, et cetera. And so, beginning of the pandemic, my general manager said we've lost 60% of our revenues.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is now we have a negative form of energy called setback, reversal. Actually, do we have any hope? We're going to lose it all. So it's not like we didn't have any energy. It was just a very interesting form of energy. That energy turned into how are we going to innovate and put something out there just as an iteration, get feedback and keep iterating until we can have some online products that really meet our customers' needs. So it turned into that kind of innovative energy. And then it actually turned into creating something that truly produced a significant impact for our clients and for us. And so there's always this kind of taking one form of energy, and just like you said, we eat it and we transform it into a different kind of it. There's potential energy turning into kinetic energy. So I think for leaders to just not be geeking out on it, not be nerding out on it, but at least understand that we are truly working with different forms of energy that can be transformed into more helpful, sometimes, forms of energy.
There's 2 points you raise or stimulate for me to comment on. One is this idea of disruption. We tend to resist disruptions. And
Yeah.
because we work really hard to create a energy pattern, if you want to talk about it in terms of energy, a lifestyle, a flow in our life where things are known, they feel safe. When I come home, my wife is going to greet me, or I'm going to greet my wife, and dinner's going to be on the table, or the kids are going to be doing their homework. I kind of know the pattern, right? For the last few decades, well, 5 decades, I guess, we've known the global world order. This is the way it operates, right? Doesn't operate that way anymore, right? Disruption, right? COVID,
Right.
disruption,
Right.
AI, disruption. The beautiful thing about disruption is exactly what you said. It gives us the opportunity to rethink and reorient ourselves to even greater things.
Mhm.
You talked about what happened at Juice, right? The same thing happened to me. I was busy working with a friend of mine who had his own consulting company, and we were together building a workshop for a leadership workshop around the living organization framework.
Mhm.
We had lined up six CEOs who were going to be our pilot group. We were in the finishing touches of the framework. Uh, we were planning it for May of 2020.
I'm bracing myself here.
And you know what happened in March of 2020? And I get a call from my friend. 60% of his business went away overnight,
Yeah.
and he could not help me anymore. So here I
Right.
am left with this thing. I can't have an in-person program.
No.
Two options. Oh my God, I'm in trouble. Or
Mhm.
what can I do with what I have? And where's the opportunity?
Yeah.
That's what you did. Huh?
Yeah.
Energy flows. If we think about life as energy flows and patterns and revealing patterns and shifting patterns, it makes it a lot easier to deal with change. So that was my first point. The second point is, again, if you think about life from energy, and especially in terms of relationship with people in communications, just take a simple communication. People pick up the energy of the communication more than the words.
They do.
And I'm not talking about reading body language. That's an important thing, but it's actually something deeper.
It's
It's
different.
the energy that I feel inside of me when I say the words is what people say.
That's
The
it.
typical example I use is I come home, I ask my wife, I sense something's off. I say, "What's going on?" She says, "Nothing, everything's fine." Right? I could listen to her words and say, "Okay, everything's fine, no
Yeah.
problem."
Go
But
read the newspaper.
my body knows that's not true.
That's
And
right.
what I'm going to pay attention to is what I experience of the energy that's coming from her.
Yeah.
And so from a leader's point of view, it's very important to appreciate that everything is energy, because what they say, not only the words they say, but the energy they carry with it. If they're anxious, they're going to carry an anxious energy. It's okay for them to be anxious, but just say, "Hey guys, I'm really nervous here," because people are going to pick that up. So it becomes an authentic communication that way. If they try to pretend it's something else, it doesn't work, right?
We look at that in terms of valence, Norm.
Yes,
Uh, Valence is the relational charge and
yes,
the emotional tone that actually is working underneath the words. And before you even open up your mouth to say a word, I'm already picking up on your valence.
that's right. Exactly. Go into any room, any group of people, into a room with a group of people. You'll before anybody says anything, you'll feel the energy of the room.
Yep.
Everybody knows that. We all have those experiences. This is not, we don't need neuroscience to tell us this.
No.
I mean,
No.
science is doing a wonderful job of explaining what we're feeling, but we've already know it exists because we've been feeling it for our whole life. So energy becomes a very important framework to keep in mind as we become more effective leaders.
Yeah. I think it's important, especially when we've got a world of leaders who are over indexed on engagement. So the engagement surveys, we get the results back, we formulate the report, we go on an offsite and we figure what's the low hanging fruit of how to respond because people want to know we listened and we come back and it's like, okay, we're going to take these three actions. And it becomes all about engagement. And if you ask them, okay, that's fair enough. What are you doing to manage energy? It's like, no clue.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you are sensitizing people to
absolutely.
be aware of. And one of the things you're talking about is there are new roles for leaders in the living organization. Could you just parse out for me a little bit the role of leader in a machine organization versus the role of a leader in a living organization? What's the difference?
Well, I um, bridged from the traditional way we define leaders: plan, organize, lead, and control. And that's the traditional role of leaders. I said, okay, if that's the role for running a machine, and I can see that, I want to plan it, right, organize it, put the right parts in the right place, or as people like to say, put the right people in the right seats on the bus. Think about that statement. How mechanistic, how machine focused is that?
With all due respect to Jim Collins, yes, I agree.
Yeah. Or another statement I love is, people are our most important assets. Well, asset is something of value that I own, right? So again, what message are we saying with these very clever statements? So in the machine paradigm, it's plan, organize, lead, and control. Well, in the living organization framework, I also have 4 responsibilities. One is set the context.
Yep.
So why do we exist? Why are we here? What are we trying to accomplish, right? What's our mission, purpose, value? What's our character? Never mind values, but what's the character of this living person? Who do we want to become as we grow up? And so that again frames it differently. And of course, you want to have the impact you want to make, the vision of the future. What difference are you? If we exist as a collective, what's the difference we want to make, right? What are we going to do here? Why are we here? So setting the context, and that really establishes those boundary conditions I mentioned, right?
Yes.
And other context defining moments. So setting the context is a key skill for leaders. The second one is developing people. In the living organization, in the machine paradigm, the people are, in the best way we talk about them is they are an important stakeholder. Very typical. I wrote an article that said people are not your most important stakeholder, or employees are not your most important stakeholder. And the article goes on like this. If I look at who are my stakeholders, investors, customers, suppliers, regulatory agencies, and people, I can take away everything. I can take away suppliers. I can take away customers. I can take away investors. Can't take away regulatory agencies because they just exist anyway. And I can still have a company. If I take away people, I don't have a company.
Right.
Okay? So people are not stakeholders. They are the living cells of the living entity. They are what makes the organization, period. They are what makes the organization capable of performing. So like my body, I want my cells to be as healthy as possible.
Yep.
I do things like what do I eat and how do I exercise and what are my thought patterns that go through me, because those are energies that affects the energy of my body, as epigenetics has taught us recently. So developing people is more than just making them capable in what they can do. It's not making them a better component. It's developing people, which means in our language, maturity and capability.
Right.
How do I make them more responsible, more accountable, take more ownership? How do I make them feel comfortable with change and uncertainty? How do I get them to think in terms of a more bigger picture perspective? All of these, how do I help them relate to different points of view? Right? How do I help them mature as a person so they can contribute more to the collective if they choose to? So developing people becomes the second thing. The other thing is recognizing that people are social animals. We tend to be tribal. We like to be part of something. So I think it's really important that leaders view their role as building a community. Not just a community of people inside, but a community. Relate to your customers and your suppliers as part of your community. We talk about it as ecosystems within ecosystems.
Right.
But the idea is I want to build community. And then the fourth thing is I want to be of service. We know from all human philosophy, religion, spirituality, human existence, when we are in service to others, we are healthy ourselves.
Yeah.
And being of service for us in the living organization framework, again, this isn't all soft and fluffy, I view being of service of delivering to you what I promise I would deliver to you. That's how I can be of best service to you. If I say
Mhm.
I'm going to make your life better by being your CEO advisor, then I want to be the best CEO advisor I can for you, because that's how I am in service to you. So being in service is not just some nice thing to do. Um, it's really focusing on the well-being of others as a path to my own well-being.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have gotten servant leadership kind of mixed up. It's like, okay, I'm supposed to be the first one to jump up and make the coffee or whatever. Nothing the matter with that. And I think that leaders could, do a bit more of that. But it is actually, how can I serve you by holding out for your highest good?
Yes, yes.
By helping you contribute at the highest level possible, that in accordance with your true potential. How can I serve you like that? And that's I think a beautiful kind of servant leadership.
Um, Again, your example of people think of servant leadership in terms of how can I should be the first one to make coffee. You're right. That if that's authentic and you truly want to do that to be of service to others, that's beautiful. But if you think about, and this is one of the biggest challenges we have with work like you and I do, um, paradigm will take everything we tell them and they will mechanize it. So instead of really grasping what it means to be a servant leader, right, they say, oh, if I do these activities, then I'm a servant leader. And
Yeah.
that's absolutely the wrong thing, right? But we do that with everything. Every new idea gets mechanized. It's all based on, okay, what actions should I take? Not who am I being while I'm acting? And it's a very different
You
point perspective.
truly, I got to read people something off your website, if I may.
Oh,
Your
please.
your soulful purpose.
Oh,
They could
wow.
go there themselves, but I want you to just comment on a couple things here. So, our soulful purpose to transform organizations, drawing on the full range of living energy, freeing the creative spark of the human spirit, enabling them to positively impact our world. You've got some beliefs. I'm just going to go through a few of those, and then you can just comment freely. Beliefs: all living beings are unique and are meant to express their essential contribution to life. We are the creators of our world and the outcomes we experience. Organizations are living beings that operate by the same principles as individuals. And finally, we are defined by and create from our deeply held stories. Now, when I read these, I feel like there's some deeply spiritual mojo going on here, Norm, and it feels quite refreshing. So when we use the word spiritual, it's not in any way to denigrate. I actually really am a fan of this language. But could you talk to your soulful purpose and your beliefs, and is there any linkage to spirituality that you could point to there?
Well, the answer to your last question is yes, but I have to define spirituality from my perspective. So I can answer.
Sure.
We hear words like spirituality, and we immediately think in terms of religiosity. It's not coming out. We think in terms of religions.
Yeah.
But that's not what I'm. That's not to me. It, Here's the journey I was on in my whole life. I started out with a very simple question: how
Hmm.
can I get more of what I want and less of what I don't want? Whether that was on a personal basis or as a leader of an organization, right? Which led me to question what makes me behave the way I do. Why
Mhm.
do sometimes things manifest in my life, dreams I've had, wishes I've had, desires I've had, almost magically, mystically. They just happen.
Yeah.
I remember one time I was planning for the following years, and I was reviewing the goals I set last year, and there was one goal I set that I blew out of the park. I mean, I just exceeded everything. But I forgot all about that goal until the end of the year. So I took no conscious action, and yet I achieved that goal anyway.
Right.
Why? What did I? How did that happen? So
Mm-hmm.
these kind of experiences began to make me ask deeper and deeper questions. What are my thought patterns? What actions do I have? And I'd study psychology, physics. I studied various spiritual traditions, a lot of Carl Jung's work. Um, and I was always looking at what are they telling me that's in common between them all.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I began to realize the way I can see what's common is if I put it all in the framework of energy. And the language now is talking about energy patterns that they're talking about. And so, yes, my work is very deeply spiritual in many, many ways. And it's because I think the more, and people use words like consciousness and awakening and more resilience, and I use the word maturity. To me, they're all pointing to the same thing. Spirituality is the way we as humans get more capable of being effective in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not the Ten Commandments or the rules of the Quran, I mean, if you really dive into those, you will see that what they're saying is all the same thing, pointing to guiding humans on how we can manifest our deepest desires. And we're meant to do that. Right? There's a lot we have to get out of the way. Carl Jung talks about the ego, and we have to transcend the ego. Well, what does that mean? So yes, my work is, in essence, draws very deeply from very, very deep spiritual principles of how humans can live life more effectively. And it's applied very concretely into the journey of organizations creating the ways they want to contribute to the betterment of our society.
Mm-hmm. So, soulful purpose, then, everything you've just said, it sets context to your point. Transform organizations, drawing on the full range of living energy, freeing the creative spark of the human spirit, enabling them to positively impact our world. Could you give us a picture? Should some of our watchers, our viewers and listeners say, "I got to work with Norm Wolfe. I want my organization to be a living organization." What might that engagement look like? Is it a 3-year process? Is it a 12-month process? Uh, do you start with the executive team? Do you start with employees and work your way up? Like, what? Just give us a brief picture, Norm, of what people could expect if they were to work with you.
Well, honestly, we start with business results. What do you want to accomplish
Yeah.
and why? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So the starting point, that's the setting the context, but asking not only what you want to accomplish, but why you want to accomplish it. Excuse me. Um, and then yes, typically we go through what might be called a strategic planning session. Your typical, we do a SWOT analysis and all the typical stuff, but we do it within a different context, right?
Sure.
We're looking at analyzing or assessing the organization uh, as a living person. So what is its current character?
Yeah.
What is its dreams? What are the internal narratives that are making people behave the way they do? The collective
Mm-hmm.
stories of the organization, both the positive ones and the ones that get in the way from achieving the goals.
Yeah.
Right? We go in with zero judgment of what they should or shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
It's like one of my beliefs is every human being is a unique entity, and my goal is to find out what this unique entity called an organization is, and why it's here, and what it wants to contribute to the world. And I don't care if contribute to the world, again, it's not a big thing. If your contribution is to make the best nuts and bolts for a certain clientele, for whatever they need in a certain material, wonderful. Then let's figure out how you can be the best at that. Right? Um, So there's no judgment of what it should be. It's not, you don't have to be, saving the world or
Yeah.
fixing, climate, none of that.
Sure.
Um, so the activity we do is very similar to what many consultants you would expect them to do. We go in, we work with the executive team, we work with the leaders, but we also, in the work we do, we help them understand how they can reframe how they view the world through this new lens.
Mm-hmm.
And we help coach them into applying this new framing to their activity. So yes, there's a lot of executive team coaching
Yeah.
along the way. And we also offer training programs, right? Very much like you do. I would imagine if I put my training programs alongside yours, there's probably going to be some overlap,
I
some
would think so.
similarities, because we're trying to achieve very similar things.
Mm-hmm.
But we base everything we do very concretely on performance, achieving the goals.
Yeah.
Uh, the number one principle in the living organization framework, as I've evolved it over the years, is that we must respond to the leader's number one responsibility, which is to ensure the organization creates the results necessary for sustainable growth.
Right.
And so that's our starting point.
Yeah. That's going to be music to most leaders' ears who are listening to
I
this.
hope so.
Yeah. Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I hope they walk away understanding that I'm on their side. I want to help them be as successful as they can be and eliminate the tension that many leaders are feeling trying to make the organization successful in the old paradigm. I mean, leaders more and more are just facing the stress of trying to do that. And I'm here to say there's a better way.
Mm-hmm. I bet you there are a lot of leaders that just encounter that and there's just a great big exhale. Like somebody is finally seeing this in a way that I knew intuitively the machine was not right, but I didn't know what it is that how I should be viewing it.
I would say that's the experience almost every client I have has. It's like, oh, a breath of fresh air. Somebody can help me move into a space. I know it's not working, but I just don't know what to do about it. Now I do. Now I have a path forward. Uh, and it sustains them. You asked me at the beginning, what sustains me, what uses me. The fact that there's a better way is what uses most of my clients.
Yeah. What does the next few years look like for you, Norm?
Wow. Well, I'm happy to announce that the second book of the Living Organization trilogy is at the printers now, and we're going to start promoting it. It's called Leading the Living
Congratulations.
Organization. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Leading
Leading the living organization.
Leading the Living Organization. It is
Hmm.
um, identifies the 6 skills that we've identified leaders need to be effective in leading the living organization. Again, like all of my work, it's the laboratory for which I developed it was on client sites. So this is really comes from the work I've done with clients.
Hmm.
It's an interesting book. It was the first time my wife and I wrote it together, and we decided to write it as a parable. So kind of
Ah,
like a Lancioni style writing, right? So we
good
have a
for you.
CEO who went through. It's interesting you talk. The CEO is the CEO of a leadership training company.
Hmm.
Her father ends up having a heart attack, so she has to take over the reins, and she does that right at COVID time.
Oh my
And
goodness. Wow.
you can get a
Wow.
sense of how much fun that story will be, right? And we walk
Hmm.
in, and she's struggling with getting the team to innovate, to get off the dime, to move into a new world, and she calls this consultant Merlin, magician, right? And
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was a
Yeah.
lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to write. So what's coming up is obviously I'm going to do a lot of promotion on the second book. That's
Yeah.
critical. We're also beginning to write the third book, which is creating results the living organization way. That's the 3 parts of the trilogy. A new way to see. That's the paradigm shift. A new way
Yeah.
to lead. That's the skill sets you need, and then a new way to create results, which is putting it all together to actually manifest the outcomes you want much more effectively. So this third book will be out probably 3 years from now.
Yeah.
I'm also very active, not only looking for new clients, but looking for new consultants. I'm building a community of people who are committed to transforming the paradigm.
So if there are people listening right now, they can reach out to you and have that beautiful conversation.
I would love to have people reach out, either clients who, CEOs who want to lead in a different way, or consultants who want to join the movement.
Beautiful. And can people get a hold of your book right now?
The first book is on Amazon. It's called The Living Organization: Transforming
Yeah.
Business to Create Extraordinary Results. The second book will be, pay attention. We'll be announcing it. I just got word from the publisher that it's going to the printer this week, and we'll start the marketing efforts in a couple of weeks.
You work with your wife, right?
Yes, we do work together. She's an integral part in helping me be much more effective at what I do on many levels.
Yeah.
She is herself an artist, and that's what she does mostly. But she's also been an improvisation performer and an improvisation teacher, and not comedy improv. This was theater improv, and she helps complement my analytical, engineering, scientific brain with her creative, experiential, in the moment improvisation way of seeing life. And so oftentimes when I train at clients' sites, she'll be a co-trainer with me, and the dance of the two of us together is almost magical. It's really been pleasant.
How long have you been married, if you don't mind me asking?
Jane and I are married now. This is our 25th anniversary coming up in October.
Fantastic.
And
congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. We're really pleased with our relationship.
Well, this has just been a delight. Thank you.
And for me too, it's been very conversational, like a fireside chat, like having coffee with a friend, and sharing and exploring together. So thank you for having me.
My privilege. And if I get out to Vancouver, Oregon, I'm going to pop in on you.
Please do.
Yeah. All
right. I actually have on my schedule, Jean-Francois reached out to me.
Yeah.
So we're gonna meet again at the end of February, I guess.
Every minute you spend with Jean-Francois is a good minute, I'm telling you.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, you'll enjoy that. All right. Well, thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, you can get a hold. So the best website, Norm, is what?
My email address is nwolfe at quantumleaders.com. And right now, Quantum Leaders is the main website where we are launching, hopefully in the middle of February or by the end of February, the Living Organization website itself. We've already trained 15 consultants, and so we're going to really promote the Living Organization framework as the brand. And Quantum Leaders will just be another consulting firm under the Living Organization umbrella.
Beautiful, beautiful. That's a great name for housing a whole mass of consultants. That's beautiful.
So we're pretty excited about that.
I'll bet you are. All right. Mr. Norm Wolfe, thank you so much for spending time with me today. And I hope that people just thrill and enjoy this episode.
Thank you, Brady. It's been a delight.
Okay.